Hello and welcome to this video series on the Indian Express news analysis. So today's date is 10th November of 2018 and here we discuss all the important articles from Indian Express in the editorial and the opinion page. So let's have a look at all the articles that you have to discuss today. Before that, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe because here you get daily The Hindu analysis along with Indian Express analysis in Hindi and English. Also, if you go to playlist, you'll find lectures on Indian polity and economics. So here the first article on the left is basically about the air pollution. So as you understand the amount of smog that has been formed in NCR and Delhi region, along with there are major cities in India where we've actually encountered this pollution. So we'll try to discuss what could be the role of civil society because you need to understand that the citizen of our country are the only people who can actually influence or basically reduce the pollution. It's not just the top to bottom approach where you're just giving the verdicts or just passing legislation. It's all what you do on the groundwork that is going to make changes. Also, this is about the Uttar Pradesh, not so important, but all it's talking about is changing the names of various places. Recently, what they are trying to plan is change the name of Faisalabad to Ayodhya. So basically, what we understand is they're trying to bring in more and more names of Hindu related and more, trying to remove all those places on monuments, roads, which is related to say Mughals or basically Muslim communities. So this is something which is very religious and this is not even required for a secular country. So moving forward, this article is about Virat Kohli, not so important. This article and this is basically about RBI. We'll discuss this in detail. This is about the blasphemy test. This is related to the case of Asha Bibi. So Asha Bibi is a Christian woman who was actually given acquittal by the Pakistan Supreme Court. But the reason why this is still in news is because most of the fundamental, say, religious group turned political groups, what they are trying to do is they have started protest against it. They think that she shouldn't be given acquittal. She should be actually hanged for the blasphemy that she has done. So we'll try to understand what the whole case and what should be the stand right now. And this is basically about the World War One. So what has happened is, so during the World War One, the Turkey was under the major area where the war was happening. So Indian soldiers also contributed. So all the story of the bravery that was done by Indian soldiers has been said here right over here. And this article is about demonetization and how it's gonna affect us, and was it even necessary, and what are the different policies that we have used and it's of no use. We'll try to discuss that also. And also you need to understand because here we are talking about Turkey and you can see the map over here, and here you need to understand the capital of Turkey is Ankara, and in the article they have been always talking about the Istanbul, and this is the same place where the journalist named as Jamal Khashoggi was also assassinated. As you see, Turkey is a part of both. You can see is a part of even Europe here and even the Asia, so it comes somewhere in between. Also the important seas here, the first you can see is here Black Sea, and here you will see Mediterranean Sea. Within Mediterranean Sea, there are some important countries that you need to have a look at. Here you can see Greece, which is a part of European Union, and usually Greece is basically it has taken a lot of debt from a lot of countries. So that's the reason why European Union always bail out. So that's the reason why Greece is always in news. Also coming to Cyprus, Cyprus is basically a tax haven country. So you want to start a company, you can actually go to Cyprus because the tax that you have to pay for it is very less. That's the reason it's called a tax haven country. Also, there are some important countries which are border to Turkey, which you need to know. Like you can see here, Bulgaria, whose capital is Sofia. You can see Syria, whose capital is Damascus. And here you can see Iraq, and you will see Iran here, Armenia, Georgia. All these are important countries in the Middle East. So you need to understand. Also, you understand that which is known as the Muslim Brotherhood. It is actually led by Turkey, and what we see is a different kind of rivalry that is coming up between Turkey and Saudi Arabia that you can see here. So because of this rivalry, Turkey becomes a very important geographical location. To just have a look at all the important countries and all the important sea between which you can find Turkey. So, and the below article is about demonetization, which we'll discuss in this article. So today's quote is, you have to dream before your dream can come true. So you need to understand this. This quote is being given by our late president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So he himself was a great dreamer and he actually achieved most of his dream. So in the similar way, what he suggests is basically all of us should actually pursue our dreams and try to achieve those dreams in the present world itself. So the first discussion will be about the smog in NCR. So as we understand, the smog is happening everywhere, every major city where pollution is prevalent. So we need to understand this proper planning that has to be done when it comes to the organizing of how you will actually do the construction. Also, what exactly should be your plan? Because yesterday also discussed that when we learned from China that they have a particular inspector who's an environmental inspector who's basically also can be called as an air quality manager who's accountable to the air pollution that is happening in China. Because last year the amount of pollution or AQI index said 737, which is outside the range of AQI itself. So to control that, lot of initiatives were taken back. So we can learn a few things from China also by appointing an AQI manager who will be actually responsible for reducing the pollution. The second thing is about the recently Diwali has been conducted where you saw a lot of bursting of crackers. Also, there were some regulations say only green crackers were supposed to use and you were supposed to burst it only between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. But this was not followed and many people were actually took back from the police also. And the next last what you can understand here is last year there was a complete ban on crackers, which also didn't work out because every time you go for a top to down approach, that is not gonna work. Because if you take an example of Sabrimala, it was a verdict on the top, there was no groundwork done. That's the reason it wasn't properly implemented. Take an example of demonetization. It was done on a top to down approach. You didn't actually do any groundwork of implementation. You didn't change the ATM configuration. You didn't make 200 rupees note available. These are some implementation challenges that we face. So on a holistic level, there are major issues. Like even take this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. If you don't implement it properly, there will be the same circumstances, right? So these implementation challenges are always there in every field or every scheme that you could talk about. The second thing is about the awareness campaign. Here, awareness campaign is just not about producing ads saying that you have to stop bursting crackers. It's more of you have to go to the public and talk to them. You can engage a lot of bodies. There are municipal bodies, there are residential associations. Every community, like say you live in an apartment, they have some association, right? If you talk to them, if they can go to every home and tell them this is what you should do, you should stop actually using crackers. You have to reduce these kind of pollution that you're doing. Only then you can sensitize people to so that they can reduce something, because just showing ads won't help them, because we need to understand that air pollution is the next big thing and it's the biggest challenge that you have to face today. So we need to involve our citizens. They need to be made responsible and given ownership of whatever the environment that they live in, because if you don't do it now, they will be the last person who will actually be affected by it, because all the respiratory problem that is going to come is going to come to them only if they don't realize it. So you need to create awareness in the right way. And the other thing that we need to understand here is there are a lot of authorities which are bringing in a lot of rules. There, some of them are really good rules, but when it comes to result, they are not giving us a desired result. For example, take an example of Environment Pollution Control Authority. So this body was actually formed and they actually brought in a new plan known as graded response action plan. If you want to understand that, just have a look at here. So based on the level that you are, you have to take some actions. Okay. Say for an example, Delhi is right now at red. Okay. Very poor quality. So what you need to do, you have to stop the use of every diesel gas net and increase the parking fees by 3 to 4 times, and followed by you have to increase the buses and the metro services. So what will happen here is you will be more relying on public services. So these are some plans. If you are in a particular range, say now you are at emergency range, now the entry of every truck except the carrying essential commodity will be banned, followed which all the construction activity will be stopped. So this is how the grade action plan works. If you are your AQI index, that is air quality index, is between that level, you will be coming into this category, and when you reach this category, what will happen is all these actions will follow. But what the result is not being so satisfactory. The reason being, this is actually a progressive step, but this will take a long time, and something which we require right now is a short-term solution to it, because long-term solutions aren't giving us immediate results, but it is causing harmful effects even now. So that's the first thing. And what we need to understand is we definitely require a nexus between center, state, municipal, police, traffic police, everybody, even the resident welfare, even the citizens have to join together, join hands, understand the responsibility towards protecting their environment, because end of the day the ultimate sufferer will be the citizen. So they need to understand they have to take ownership. And the next thing that you need to understand is this is something which comes up in every scheme implementation. This is known as behavioral change, or basically change in the mindset. The one thing that you need to understand here is it is very difficult to get the mindset change or have a behavioral change itself. Because if you take an example of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, where you need to make people understand where to actually defecate, where not to, where to throw garbage, where not to, such behavioral change itself is so difficult. How exactly will you convince people not to fire crackers, not to use polluting vehicles, how to reduce pollution? All these things explaining to citizens is very difficult. We need to figure out one mechanism where we can actually advocate this behavior change, so that people can actually use more novel methods which are more environment friendly, which actually promotes green energy. All these require a behavioral change, also a cultural shift. All these will be a remain a challenge for any governance. Once we can achieve this, we can actually implement most of the scheme. The two problems that government faces right now is, the first thing is about the implementation challenge, and the second thing is about the behavioral change that has to be brought up within the citizens or within the government bodies. Once this is done, we can actually achieve most of our schemes. And the last thing that we need to understand is, the ownership has to lie with the citizen, because they are the ultimate sufferers and the gainers of all these schemes that's going to happen. The next article that we're going to discuss is about the flawed policy decision. So here we're talking about a demonetization. So 2 years back, so when demonetization was actually activated, so what happened was, a lot of people got affected, right? The farmers got affected, the daily wage laborers got affected, because most of the trade was through the cash, but cash wasn't limited. So that's the reason most of their activities actually deteriorated. So what we need to ask the right questions are, did corruption reduce after demonetization? Did we just switch to digital transactions? All these questions still lie ahead of us. But if you look at the statistics, the corruption is still prevalent. You can take an example of the CBI. The top bureaucrats itself are allegating charges against each other for corruption. You understand, this demonetization has not helped us for reducing corruption. Also, if you see, look at the terrorism point of view, the Naxalism and the terrorism what we see in the valley has not reduced at all. Of course, we saw the stone pelting in July, which was happening in 2016, got reduced because the amount of money that you pay for the stone pelters was not there. That's the reason stone pelting reduced. But when it comes to terrorism and Naxalism, no, it has not reduced. Even though the Hawala system that you're talking about, if they have to transfer money, there are other ways also. If you can transport all those materials which are illegal, then it's very easy for them to even transport money. So that's the reason this has not helped us even in reducing terrorism. And the third thing that you need to understand is the digital transaction. Of course, many people actually switch to phone pay, Paytm, MobiKwik. Yes, definitely most of the shops now have that facilities also. But the question is, after the 2 years we have again switched back to the cash. So if you talk about digital literacy, no, we have achieved it to certain extent, but to a complete transfer of digital transactions so that there has to be a transparency, no, we haven't achieved it. That is one of the point that has been mentioned in this article. Also, we need to understand that right now what is the tussle between RBI and governor, the government is basically, they have generated a lot of surplus. Who? RBI has generated a lot of surplus. How? They actually print all the currency. So they say they have to print a currency of 10 rupees. It charges them somewhere around 3 to 4 rupees. So extra money is their profit. Also, they have a lot of bonds with them. So they have generated a lot of surpluses, somewhere around 9 lakh crore, out of which government is asking 3.6 crore to be transferred to government coffers. So what is being questioned is, does government really needs it? If they get it, what are they going to do it? They're obviously going to use it for the populist move. Say they'll give farm loan waivers, or they'll spend it not so consciously. So that's the reason there's been debated whether to transfer the surplus fund or not. If you take an example of other countries, say UK and US, most of the surplus that has been generated by central bank are usually transferred to the government. But here in India, we have to be little judicious and conscious, because we don't have such a conducive environment when it comes to RBI and government since decades. So that's the reason we want to have hit a balance and agreement where we can actually negotiate how much amount of the surplus should be sent to government. So here you can see all the other benefits which usually were not mentioned, like the fake currencies were in circulation, which actually came to notice in RBI. Also the stone pelting, which I've already told you, the Hawala sources, even the most of the small vendors also started using all these apps which can help promote digital transactions. Moving forward, we'll discuss about the Asha Bibi case. So the first you need to understand the case itself. So Asha Bibi is a resident of Pakistan and she is a Christian. Okay, so what she did was she actually drank the cup of water from the cup which was actually destined for only the Muslim community. So all the Muslim women around her in the village actually told that she shouldn't have drink from the same cup. So she actually ended up saying something about Prophet Muhammad which was not liked by the other ladies, and that's why charges came up on her for the blasphemy. Blasphemy means when you actually say something against someone's religion which actually violates their belief on their religion. Only in that case it's called as blasphemy, and you'll be charged if you are in Pakistan for that, because their blasphemy law is above the constitution. So what has happened is in 2008 this whole incident happened, and now we are at 2018, and now Supreme Court has given us acquittal even though the district court would have already given them a sentence to hang. Okay, so what we need to understand here is Supreme Court have Pakistan have showed real bravery by actually acquitting her of all the charges, because there weren't more evidences to prove that she actually said something against Islam or basically the Muhammad Prophet. But what we need to understand here is, as a country, should constitution be above all the blasphemy laws? So this is one question that we need to answer. And the second question we need to answer is, even though she's acquittal, why is it still in news? The second thing we need to understand here is, then it's still in news because most of the religious group, most of the political parties are trying to get the political mileage here. What they're trying to do is they have started doing protests. They are saying all the verdict that has been given by the Supreme Court is against the Islam. All these things are happening, and there are a lot of protests, okay, violent protests happening in Pakistan. So what we need to see here in the future is, will Pakistan kneel down in front of these religious fundamentalist group, or what is going to happen? Because what we know right now is there has been a no-fly list where you actually put the name and they will never be allowed to go out of Pakistan. And you need to understand, for Asha Bibi, most of the people who supported her, the governors, even the governor of Punjab who actually supported her, was assassinated. Even the Supreme Court judge and the lawyers who supported her, then they are living in fear that one day they will be assassinated for having actually giving this verdict. So in a country where even the Supreme Court judge, even the lawyers, even the governors are not safe, they can be assassinated by their own bodyguards. How can you believe that Asha Bibi will live safely in Pakistan? Most of her family have shifted to UK. Also, you need to understand that European Union has put a lot of pressure on Pakistan, saying if the right justice is not given to Asha Bibi, we will stop all the trade with Pakistan. And Pakistan, as you know, right now is in the economic turmoil. The economy is right now not so good. So that's why they, somewhere we see there is this influence when it's come to this judgment also. But end of the day, we need to understand that every poor or every minority deserves a justice, no matter what country you live in. So every minority, even though you are Christian, even though you are a Muslim, if you live in a country where you are a minority, you deserve equal justice irrespective of your economic, social strata or religious strata. So this is exactly what you need to understand. Also, this is a very infamous case because most of the countries, say European Union, United Nations, even the Vatican City is actually supporting this, so that there has to be a speedy justice in this matter. Now let's just discuss about the RBI. So here there are a lot of actions taken by RBI when it comes to controlling NPA, even the liquidity crunch which has happened after the ILFC. ILFC basically infrastructure leasing and financial companies. So what has happened recently is, to ensure that NPA is reduced, they have brought in something known as prompt corrective action. What this basically means is, before giving loan to anybody, you need to make sure that all your loans given before are cleaned up. So here, whatever loan a bank gives is an asset to them. How am I saying it an asset? Because on every loan that you give, you'll get some interest, right? So there's a reason it's known as asset to the bank. So you are supposed to clean up your earlier asset before you give a new asset. The reason why it's been done is so that to reduce the amount of NPA that you're going to create in future. This is the first action, that's known as prompt corrective action. The second thing is about how to increase the liquidity, because most of the companies are not actually believing on NBFC because of the recent ILFC crisis, because the short-term loans were they were unable to pay, so they become a defaulters. And the reason I've already explained you, because the long-term loans which they have given to infrastructure projects were delayed. That's the reason they didn't get timely interest. That's the reason they didn't pay the short-term loans. This is very simple. But right now what has happened is the trust of people have reduced. So what you have to do is you have to infuse more and more money into it, and that could be done only by RBI. But they need to actually figure out what to do at what time, because we understand the value of rupee is depreciating, the economic crisis, the prices of oil has decreased. So in that cases, your economic moves has to be very much well thought. But what government thinks is RBI is not taking prompt actions. Also, it has always been telling about the MPC, that is the Monetary Policy Committee, which consists of both RBI people also along with government. But they usually decide the how to reduce the inflation along with what plans to use the policy rates are decided here. But there have been a lot of even controversies over on this also, whether to have it or not, because the whole idea of MPC was actually taken from New Zealand, and they have already scrapped it also. The relevance of MPC also comes up as a question. So what you need to understand here is the government is asking for the surplus, which I've already mentioned, 3.6 lakh crore, which is in surplus with RBI government is asking. So this is the whole issue here. Because RBI is in so much in news, you need to understand this comes under the Act of RBI 1934. So this is the act which gives them the power. It was founded in 1935, and the headquarters right now is in Mumbai, and the governor is Urjit Patel. And also there are some important issues which has happened. So the deputy governor of RBI, his name is Viral Acharya. So recently he gave a speech where he told that how government is interfering. The first issue is about the payment regulation. Okay, they have got a new they have been talks about bringing in a new committee, or basically a new body which will regulate the payment, because you understand a lot of digital payment have started. So that's the reason there has to be a different body, what has been suggested by government. But RBI has shown a clear dissent, saying no, payment is a small part of banking itself, and RBI has been governing it for decades, and now also RBI will only govern. The second thing is about the autonomy that RBI demands, so that they can actually regulate the PSB, that is the public sector bank, more efficiently. This is the second demand. And the third demand is government is trying to transfer the reserves of RBI to their own coffers. So they'll be using it for the farm loan waivers and all the populist move. So this is the third way. And how are they going to achieve it is using the Section 7 of RBI Act, which empowers government to actually order RBI for the public welfare with consultation with the RBI governor. So these are all the strength which RBI has and which autonomy which is demand, but the government is not ready to give. But the fundamental question that we need to ask is, as a democratic country, who should have more power? A populist government, or basically nominated people who have a lot of knowledge with who comes with domain knowledge? The question remains. But whenever such a situation comes, the path is always the mid path, the path of Buddha, where you are actually amalgamating the best of both populist and the nominated people who have the domain knowledge of economic and finance. Only then you will have the effective governance, and this is exactly what we need to understand. So that's all for today's guys. Just revise whatever that we have studied today. We understood about the Asha Bibi case, RBI, then we understood about demonetization, the policies, then we understood about the air pollution and the smog that we see in the NCR region. That's all for today, guys. If you like this video, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it as much as you can with your friends. Thank you and have a nice day. Jai Hind.